meant a lot for us to stand on our own 2 feet and prove that we were the real deal, that Turtle Rock Studios was a real AAA game developer.
We stayed true to what the game always was.
It was amazing to work on something that no one's ever tried before.
It was clear we had to give it another shot no matter what.
We were so excited that people got this game the way that we did.
Evolve will always be super close to my heart, and it'll always be a part of all of us.
We're not perfect. We tried our best. That's all we can really hope to do.
It's because of you that we were able to do this.
If we didn't have fans, then we wouldn't be able to do what we love. We'd be able to make these games, so they're, the #1 most important thing.
That one person that says thank you and you're doing an awesome job, I want to keep going and I want to keep kicking ass for them.
I look forward to showing you guys what we have in store for the future.
#1 thing is to remember that there's more stuff coming. We want our fans and our community to be along for the ride.
We're not done. We've got some great stuff in the oven cooking. That sucks, because I just made a fart noise with my hand.
Hello!
Hi, everyone!
Hi, everyone! Well, there you have it. On October 25th, 2016, Turtle Rock Studios' contract ended on working with development for Evolve. And, it's Leanne's tearing up. It's been surreal. It's been crazy. But first off, we want to thank you guys for all the love and support you've given us from the very beginning until now, and will continue to give us, because it's because of you that we do this. And I think that Chris's message is spot on, and everyone else in that video. I think I interviewed about 25 people regarding what happened, and all of them said pretty much the same things. I just picked from the bunch. So I hope that video hit home, and I hope you also have the feels for Phil and his
Fart noises.
Fart noises. Bless. But yeah, Leanne, lovely executive producer, and I, Shane Meyer, I'm a community manager, are here today to answer some questions, those burning questions that you've had about what happened, what's gonna happen, and what to expect from Turtle Rock Studios. So we're gonna start it off with, from the Meme Lord, question number 1. I'll let Jerry take time to get it up there. Thank you, Jerry. When did you first hear about the contract ending? How did everyone at TRS take it?
So we heard about 2 weeks ago that the contract was going to be ending. So how did everyone take it? I think that was very correct. I think we were all a little sad because we've had a lot of great plans for what we want to do with Evolve, and there was a lot of stuff that we wanted to do after this last patch. But then we were able to look at everything and go, okay, what do we do? What do we leave everybody with that we can do? And it was actually kind of cool that our lovely glacial behemoth, or Bobsicle as we like to call him, was kind of our last patch to you guys.
Yeah, it was definitely, everyone took it differently, but for the most part, it was after the sadness had kind of like set in, and then telling you guys and going through that with you, it was definitely a very emotional experience. It felt like a breakup. It felt like, what do I do now? It's a new chapter, and you just kind of have to keep telling yourself that, right? But lucky for us, we do have a lot of stuff going on that, just in case, because we weren't sure. Leading up until that, we just weren't sure. So that's why kind of having it happen felt like, okay, well, this isn't it for Turtle Rock. We've got a lot more coming, so that was good.
So our next question is from Sybil A. How was the atmosphere of the workplace leading up to this news?
I guess I kind of answered it. Leading up to it, we weren't sure. We didn't know what was going on. It felt like, we just kept pushing out more and more content to just get out what we wanted, because we weren't sure like how long it was going to go for, or how often, how many more patches we had. Yeah. So we just tried to do the best we could at the moment we had. So it was just kind of leading up to the week of finding out. It all kind of felt like when it was announced, we were like, okay, that makes sense now, because for about a week or two we were kind of like, this feels weird. Something feels weird. Just, I guess, high of mind.
Yeah.
You know, we just kind of felt something was going to happen. So I apologize if we were quiet for a little bit. We just all were, it was all unknown. And, you know, whether or not whatever decision was made, because we didn't even know there was specifically a decision going to come down on us at that time, it was just like, okay, here we go. Let's see what it is. And it turned out to be that. And like I said, it feels like a new beginning. So I think people are seeing all your responses has really made people feel totally different about the entire situation and really feel loved. And I want to thank you all for that.
Yep.
Will 2K work on the Trello board objectives? Asks Argus of Night.
That's up to them.
Yeah.
They know what our plans were. There's a lot of that stuff, as you guys remember seeing, that we had as active, which meant that they were working on it.
Yes.
So it's totally up to them as to whether or not they continue that stuff or let it. I know that their FAQ currently says that there's no plans to do any patches, but the stuff is there, and they knew where we wanted to go with things.
Yes.
Next one is, will 2K continue support? As I mentioned, it's kind of answered in the FAQ.
It is entered in the FAQ. There are links on the official Evolve game Facebook and Twitter pointing to the FAQ and the blog of 2K that tells you as much as we know and as you know now. So that is the best advice we can give if you're curious about what they're going to do next. I definitely check into the 2K blog.
Yeah.
By Big Daddy Putt Putt.
I love your name, by the way.
Is there a chance of Stage 2 on console? That is another...
Up to 2K. We wanted to make sure we answered all these questions. We know that maybe the answers aren't satisfactory, but it's to the best of our knowledge. So that one's up to 2K as well. Like they said, they're still evaluating it. It is there is a bit of work to do because we changed a lot of the menu flow and stuff like that. So it's non-trivial. We can't flip a switch and turn it on. But so since there's a lot of work, they'll have to look at that.
Yes.
Next question we have is, and I liked this one, will Halloween crates be staying forever now? Shane?
The answer to this is a resounding yes.
I told her I couldn't evil cackle, so that was really good.
Just
Thank
kidding.
you.
But no, actually, I mean, Halloween crates will continue until someone patches them offline.
So it's a client-side thing as to whether or not the Halloween crates are on. So it does require a patch to you guys to turn them off.
Yes.
So it's kind of with the similar or the earlier questions. It totally depends on what they end up wanting to do with it.
Yes. By Philly Buns.
Yes.
Number one, there's 3 parts to this question. Are you ready, Leanne?
Yes.
Okay. Can the game support LAN parties once the servers get shut down for good?
So Evolve Stage 2, so the PC will stop operating. I made sure I checked with our tech director, Wes, to make sure that this is what. So once the servers go down, it'll stop working. Evolve Legacy, so consoles and the beta branch that's Legacy might still work. It actually wasn't something that we tested in a long time, but theoretically it's supposed to fall back to using listen servers, which means they don't need dedicated servers. So we don't actually know, but we think that Legacy will still work.
Right. Number 2, please let us know what happens to the game once the 2K servers turn off.
Same thing with before Stage 2. Will probably stop working, and then Legacy may continue working, and then you're able to play solo on there.
Then there was a further question that kind of went into more detail from Philly Buns, asking if it can still be played with friends somehow. Maybe you could have a spectator as the host and avoid performance reduction on the host PC. As far as that's concerned, it all depends on what they do with it now.
So if the servers do end up still working for Legacy, the person that becomes the host of the game is whoever started the party. So if this person in the spectator slot starts as the party and hosts everyone, then most of the load goes on to them. So as long as it still works, there you go.
Yeah.
Next question. Is TRS legally permitted to use the assets from Metamorphosis, or was that also part of the 2K contract? And this is also from Philly Buns.
So as far as this is, we have requested whether or not we can show those assets. As far as future work, that was a no. As far as Metamorphosis, we will have more of that at the end of the stream with Chris Ashton. Phil Robb was supposed to be with us today, but he had a little bit of a family emergency, so he won't be here, unfortunately. But definitely stay tuned. We have a ACK Hammer to give away, one of the Triforce Medic pistols. So that'll be awesome. Just stick with us. We'll do that in a little bit. But at the end of the stream, when Chris is on with Steve or Corey, we will be giving that away. Phil was really excited to do that, but he's not here. And as far as was it part of the 2K contract, that is a yes. Yes. So even though it was part of the contract, we have showed bits and pieces before, but today, after this segment with the lovely Leanne and I, we will be showing more on Metamorphosis. We even have the trailer that we used to pitch it, so it's going to be pretty cool.
Super cool. Chris had fun putting it together, I
He
think.
did.
All right.
Our next question is from GS user 43. Is TRS ceasing support to Evolve Stage 2B is... Does it mean there will never be an Evolve sequel?
So that's another one that's up to 2K. They own the IP, which means that they have control of everything that happens with it. So if they choose to make a sequel, that's totally up to them. So we actually don't know if it's a never or later or what.
It's similar to the Left 4 Dead issue where we get a lot of requests to create a Left 4 Dead 3, but Left 4 Dead's IP is in the hands of Valve right now. So say if Valve were to come to us and say, hey, we want to do this, that would be something that we would work out with them. But currently, we don't have the rights to that, so we can't just make one.
Yep.
Same with Evolve.
All right, next one. How do we, as a community, let 2K know that we want Evolve to continue to be supported, updated, balanced, and patched, aside from purchasing gold keys? So there it is now.
Really, the best you can do, because we love our 2K brothers, we give them all the support we can at this point.
Yeah.
I think the best thing you can do to spread awareness about how you feel about Evolve and support Evolve is what you've always done, and that's tweet at them, message them, maybe send a nice letter to 2K support and just let them know how much you love the game, because I know there was a time when we weren't sure how passionate people were, how they felt, because there was, the DLC shitstorm, for example. And really a lot of that has changed since Evolve Stage 2, and your love has really been pronounced. But I think that's the best advice we can give, is to just let them know how much you love the IP and how much you want it. And I'm sure that they'll consider it more.
Yeah.
From the lovely Dova Kick, will the game be able to be bought from another company, except 2K Games, to continue the project? Will Evolve be still downloadable even after the shutdown of the servers?
Again, that's up to them. There's copies that are out on the shelves. There's the stuff in Steam, which they can control and pull off. So it'll all depend on how they want to move forward. So we're not sure. Next one is, can the game be left in community hands via modding support?
This is what I wanted more than life itself. No, modding isn't something that I was just super excited for, and then I got here and I'm like, modding! And then the lovely Steve Goldstein, you'll meet him soon, he was like, no, the engine is like, no. So sad as it may be, the engine was not cut out for that currently, so we can't introduce modding. 2K can introduce modding. It's not in the future of the current engine and build that we have for Evolve, which is really sad.
Yeah,
but
our version of the game engine was heavily modified because of things that we had to do for Evolve.
Yes.
So it's not like you can plug it into the current version of CryEngine that's out there and get it working. So unfortunately, right now, no modding support.
It
Sorry.
sucks. From Rail Zerks. If the cost for another contract, say another 6 months of development, could be crowdfunded from the community, how much are we looking at? Leanne's
Millions.
Millions.
It's not cheap to do something like Evolve, and also like it's a AAA game. A lot of effort goes into it. It's a large team that goes into creating everything. And also, to be able to pay for it, the other party has to be willing to sell it or license it or anything. So there's kind of two pieces there. It's like getting the amount of money. And generally, crowdfunding just doesn't generate that kind of money, unfortunately.
And there are a lot of decisions that go into business. So at the end of the day, when you're like, well, it just seems so easy, just take my money, you know, like Futurama, take my money.
At the screen.
It doesn't always work like that, which is just how the cookie crumbles, as Jim Carrey said. I'm sure someone else more prominent said that, but I'll just go with that. Let's see. What is the next one?
At least some sort of goodbye patch.
Oh, support me, Sonny.
Yes, from
We
Support
will.
Me Sunny. Sorry, we've been forgetting names. Nico and Relzerts, thank you for your previous questions. 216 was our goodbye patch, so unfortunately we won't be able to do another one because, as we mentioned, as of Tuesday, which is October 25th, the contract ended, so nobody's working on Evolve at Turtle Rock anymore. So enjoy Bobsicle. We love him.
I love
His
it.
frosty self.
I didn't get to play with him as much as I wanted to, and now I'm gonna. I was playing yesterday. I'm gonna play more.
Sweet.
From the wonderful Atronach on our forums, can we still discuss balance and other things on Evolve forums? Or the TRS forums is what he's referring to. At this point, it seems kind of pointless. What reason do we have to stay? So.
Yes.
There are lots of reasons. Yes, you can still discuss balance. Yes, you can still, you know, I know a lot of people have cultivated friendships on the forums, and that's what we're there for. We're a community. It's not just a place to go to, you know, report bugs and report suggestions and, you know, and have feedback. And at that point, those things forward to 2K support.
Yeah.
But as far as the forums are concerned, we're a community. It's all a big family, and we're here for you. We're listening. We love our IP as much as you love our IP, and we're there to talk about it and think of the good times and help you out where we can and answer questions when we can. Also know that the forums are not dying. We will be adding all new content. I'm going to keep up with a lot of community events and discussions, so on and so forth, and I know all of our mods are as well. So always feel free to come to us and talk about it. That's what we're here for. We will still have dev support. We'll have the same amount of dev support. And that's what it's there for. It's for a direct line of communication between you and us. And that's not going away.
Yeah,
so
we want to hang out with you guys. We want to talk about our new titles.
Yeah.
All the VR stuff we're able to talk about. And then we also, you know, as we get other things that we're able to talk with you guys about, that's going to be the first place to go is our forums, because we're going to be there and ready to chat with you guys. So
yeah. And as far as our new titles are concerned, we developed a wonderful relationship with the lovely Jason Rubin, who now works with an Oculus. He was part of the THQ team when we were under THQ initially, which you'll see a lot of the milestones from that in a little bit. And so our relationship with him has grown, and we love him and his team as well. And they've actually been helping us a lot with little side projects here and there, just in case, because as we discussed earlier, the feeling was kind of like, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know what we're going to do, but we're just going to keep kicking ass until we get the news. So, what is our next question? Explosion Incorporated. Do you all like glitter skins, especially on Emmett?
So Tara spoiled this a little bit. I'm looking at you, Tara. We were actually trying to get glitter skins to work. Jamie was looking into it, and it was really awesome because she would like come to my desk, or she'd swing by Shane and she'd be like, "Look at this reference art," and it'd be like these fabulous glittery like high-heeled shoes. So she was trying to get it working. We wanted to get some glitter skins in it, especially for Emmett. That was the priority.
Especially for
you,
Explosion Incorporated.
It was for you.
It was for you. They're like, "What do you want to do with the end?" And I'm like, "Glitter skins, please, because Explosion needs them." And we really did try.
We did.
We
so
did.
unfortunately we were able to do that, but we wanted to let you know that we tried.
We
and
really
wanted
tried.
it.
I think Jamie described it coming out as Emmett covered in sprinkles, slightly lubricated. Is what it looked like. So we decided against.
Kind of like, oh, this needs a little more work.
Just because it needed a lot more work, and literally she was working on it last week when we found the news, and still was like, oh, I can't lubricate. But anyway, I said that a lot. Let's go on.
So that was actually our last question.
Yes, that was our last question. And I just wanted to reiterate, Leanne and I will be there along with about 70% of our dev team is in the forums. And we will continue to be there.
Yep.
We're there to answer any questions you have about Evolve or Left 4 Dead or our newest titles with Oculus and VR. and just hang out and have a good time. And if you're still feeling, you know, like there's that hole in your heart as we are, we're there.
Yeah.
And we feel the same.
Keep reaching out. I think that the reaction from all of you on Tuesday when we broke the news was actually like, it was super overwhelming. She's making the heart. It was like you were torn between feeling so wonderful and wanting to cry.
Yeah.
And it was so much better than we expected. And thank you. It was awesome. You guys are the best community anybody could have asked for, and we look forward to continue working with you guys on future projects. So please stick around.
Definitely. As mentioned before, we're going to have a giveaway today. I wonder if Jerry can pull that up for me. Here it is. Look what I have.
Beautiful.
I don't even have one of these. Come on. Let's get some love in the chat for the Act Hammer. It is the medic pistol that I believe Vel carries around. They all have that on the side. And it's in this really sweet, there's a good picture, a really sweet case done by Triforce.
You can take it out and play with it. We'll leave it as such, but I like the display case. It stands on its own. It's really
pretty sick. Yeah.
So you can kind of just put it up on your shelf wherever you want. Maybe you want to create an Evolve shrine. I don't know. I have one at home. So.
We all have one of those.
So definitely.
So just type !Metamorphosis. That's all. No big deal. Metamorphosis. Just make sure you spell it right, because our bot's gonna pick it up. You have till the end of the stream to enter for this. !Metamorphosis. And we'll be picking somebody at the very end. If you're not there, that sucks. Because this thing is a treasure. If you don't know where this came from, I guess Leanne can explain it better than I can.
Yeah, so leading up to ship, we started this thing which was no shave and no clip till ship, which meant that the ladies, and actually some of the guys signed up for it too, you weren't allowed to cut your hair at all until we shipped, and it was the same thing with the beard. So you can actually kind of look, we have old threads on the forums that have all of the like magnificent beards that people were growing. Like it was, I didn't know if we looked like hobo or post-apocalyptic or what.
A mix of both.
And then that was kind of the prize for sticking it out until the end. So I've got one at home
a year,
at my shelf.
right? It was a year.
It was almost a year, yeah. My hair got like super long, and then it was really cool because for every inch that we cut, we donated to charity. So that was really awesome.
So remember, !Metamorphosis. And speaking of that, we are going to transition, and we'll have Corey and Chris Ashton here to talk more and answer more of your questions that you've been waiting for, along with discussion on the early stages of Evolve, back when Scorpid was here, and it was called Metamorphosis, hence the giveaway. So we're going to transition to the trailer that we used to pitch Metamorphosis, and then it will go to Chris and Corey. So I wanted to thank you so much, Leanne, for being here. I know I'm never here either, so, you know, we're... And thank all of you for showing up, and we love you guys, and we wouldn't be here without you. And this is not the end. This is the glorious rebirth.
Damn right.
And
a long time. Oh, hey, we're here.
There we are.
I'm Corey.
Look, that's me.
And that's a Chris. There you go.
Yeah.
A Chris Ashton. Hey, look at that. Well, hello everyone. We're here for the last Chris and Corey segment.
That's right.
To do some questions and hang out with you guys.
Not the last ever.
Ever. No.
Turtle Rock Studios.
That's correct.
We will survive. So, the pistol's super cool, right?
You gotta show that off.
Those are rad.
So yeah, we have that's going to be given away over the course of the stream. So definitely be looking in the chat for all that. And Metamorphosis is going to be the key or the catchphrase for it. So exclamation point Metamorphosis, and then keep doing that, and then you'll be entered in for the giveaway.
What about that trailer?
That was pretty good.
That little teaser trailer.
It was pretty good.
Those are the old days.
Some old stuff.
But
even before my time.
But if you watch that teaser trailer and then you play Evolve, we built the thing that we said we were going to build.
There you go.
And that's incredible. Very few people get the opportunity to ever do that.
And you got to make that trailer too back in the day.
Yeah, just with some concept art, sliding stuff around, a few prototype maps. Yep, that was good.
It was
good
all
times.
good times.
And we have more stuff to show coming up from the development of Evolve. We have a lot of never before seen footage of early milestones. We're going to walk people through the development up to at the end of it basically looks like Evolve at the end. So we'll get to see the whole thing. It's going to be awesome.
You can kind of see how things get built over time and like how development kind of works.
Yeah.
Right?
So that teaser trailer is kind of the start. That was the pitch, right? And so now we'll go into actual like milestones and show stuff.
That'll be cool. And also one thing to keep in mind with the pistol giveaway is that you can only enter once. So if you already put in Metamorphosis, then you already entered in. So that way we don't have people going crazy for it. I know it's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, we do have some community questions that we can get into, and then after this will be you and Matt Colville on to talk more about like Metamorphosis and then how it transitioned over into Evolve and like all this crazy stuff, and then some more community questions because each of us get our set of questions to talk about today. So I guess we'll start rolling.
Yeah.
And I'll go with the first question. This is from Go Goliath, and there we go. We have it right there.
Wait.
Oh wow, we got cool stuff even going on in the background. So what character, monster, or hunter did you have the most fun making? What would that be for you?
For me, I think personally probably was Behemoth. And unless, and that's kind of like shipping monster, but if you going back into development, like prior versions and stuff, probably had the most fun with the Wraith back when she was a teleporter, and we'll show you guys that. Because it was just so extremely different from all the other monsters, that's when we felt like, okay, now this is crazy, right? And then we actually had to dial it back a little because they were so different that it was causing people problems. They'd get used to one monster and couldn't play the other one at all. So that's some lessons we learned. But so during development, early prototype version, I would say Wraith, but actual kind of like the version that is more similar to a shipping version, I would say Behemoth. And because it took us years to get Goliath to the point where it would ship, you know, and the same with Kraken and Wraith. Whereas Behemoth was much more of a, okay, now we know what the game is. We know how 4v1 works. We know how Evolve works and what monsters should and shouldn't be able to do. And so Behemoth was the first one that we created with that rule set already established. And so, we were able to basically create a design, and then the shipping version was the execution of that design, as opposed to the other ones, which varied. The shipping version changed a lot from the initial designs.
Yeah, I remember even talking with people, seeing like the crazy stuff that used to be, and then now like how it shipped and how it was here, like is two like completely different things at times. And it's just, I don't know, it's cool to see that transition over, and then also like getting to use old stuff, right? Like we even use like on Elder Kraken, we talked about the chain lightning used to be, or I think we called it arc lightning, but it used to be on I think original Grounder, which would be Kraken.
Yeah.
And then that we were able to port that over into Elder Kraken and give that.
And you'll see stuff in the milestone videos. You'll see stuff like Scorpid having concussion blast, which when you watch it play, it's Kraken's vortex. It actually, that's an ability that completely changed hands.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how that kind of stuff happened. And I guess for me on the development side, like I came on a lot later, obviously, for Stage 2 stuff. But I think I had the most fun when we did Renegade Abe because like I like shotguns a ton in video games, and also like the fast pace, like switching all over the place and doing all this. And Abe was always fun, but I was an assault player, so I never got to play Abe. And I always wanted to play Abe, and then now it's like, oh, I get to play Abe all the time, and I'm like doing all these crazy things. It was kind of fun to like work with the team and kind of figure out like how he would feel. And then he came out, and then it was just a lot of fun to just go online and just be like the gunslinger, right? Like that was a lot of fun for me.
And I think that goes to show what's awesome about Evolve is just that everybody has a favorite, right? And a lot of the times those are totally different, right? Everybody is attracted to different things in the game, and it just offers such a wide range of characters and monsters and play styles and stuff that I feel like that's one of the strengths of the game.
Yeah, I think that's like all of us got to input our own thing that we liked at different times. Like there's things that each kind of player can find and be like, oh, that's the thing I love, right? And I think that was the best thing for me and you getting to develop it was that kind of stuff kind of came out.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Let's see, our next question, would the Emmett adaptation have been an assault? If not, what would it have been? One of the ideas I know Brandon had was to make Emmett an assault. And then also we had this idea as well with Bucket to make an team of all buckets. He would basically like kind of taking on the war bucket idea that I think we had a concept for at one point where his head would go onto different rigs depending on like what role he would want to do. So he'd have a different trapper rig, an assault rig, and then a medic rig, and all would do certain things. So I think like that was kind of the fun idea that we could do even with Emmett. Like if the Demon Corps had become like an actual it took over Emmett and then he was an assault and just him going crazy the whole time and not being nice at all. And that was kind of something we wanted to explore. So yeah, that's what in our eyes like one of the Emmett adaptations. But him and Bucket, we felt like we could have done tons, right? You could just have an Emmett and Bucket army of hunters essentially. So that was kind of our fun take from Stage 2. So I think we have the next question, which would be, I'll just start reading it since I have it here. When it came to making Gorgon and the variations, did you guys use any of the ideas from the forums, or are these already set in stone? And I guess like you talking about Gorgon, since that would be you, so where did Gorgon kind of come from? And like, do you guys, like, how did that all start?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a weird thing. We get so much feedback from everybody, the community, but also people inside of the studio and people at 2K. And so there's just so much feedback coming from all directions, and we're so open to it. And we're happy to use good ideas no matter where they come from. Doesn't matter if you're an engineer or an animator, or you don't have to be design, right? Everybody is really kind of a game designer. We all play games, so we all know what we like and what we don't like, and so we view all that stuff as super important, and it's really valuable. So as a result, like I often don't know where ideas came from. I don't remember because they all the specifics come over time and from hundreds of different people. And so, but for sure we're on there reading forums and stuff like that. So the community has a voice, and sometimes that stuff trickles into all the way into design, right? Into new content. And it may be something that you read and then you give me feedback, or something that I read and I don't even realize it, but that's in the back of my head and it affects things, right? So we'll see a little bit in the milestone videos. There was an old monster called a whip spider. We've not really talked about it very much. We've not. I think there's like one or two clips of it in the Development of Evolve thread on the forums. But you'll get to see it in action here. And that was it was a design that didn't work, a design that didn't make it, didn't ship with the game. But we felt like the core of that type of gameplay, being sneaky, setting up traps and that sort of thing, would work. And so Gorgon was our take at like reviving that idea, but doing it in a way that works.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest thing. Like at least from my time on the project, like seeing like you have an idea and then trying to make it work in the game space, right? Like you have tons of ideas and you want all of them to work, but sometimes you gotta be like, we need to change it up, right? Like just because it sounds like a good idea, you need to like get it and play it. And I think that's the one, like that's like the Turtle Rock way. Like we'll test any idea and then we'll go for it and then we'll figure out from there what's the next step.
And it's really rare that your initial set of ideas are what ships. It always gets modified. It always has to adapt and change to the game to fit in, you know, to fit all the different pieces. So.
And let's see, going on to the next one, we have what ideas did you have for adaptations or refactors as well? So I guess like a character adaptation that you wanted to do.
The one that I was really excited about was Lazarus, but there's also another question about Laz. We could jump to that one.
Yeah,
if we
I mean
want
we can. I guess it kind of ties in.
Right.
I'll just say the question and we'll get to it again later. But what would the rework for Lazarus end up doing? From what I gathered, he never left the concept stage, but what would have been the general idea behind him? So I guess like this ties into your, what adaptation did you want to make was the Lazarus one.
With the adaptations, a lot of them, some of them were more expensive, some of them were cheaper, just because of how easy or hard it was to do. And Lazarus was one of the ones that we really were pretty, I don't know, what's the word? It was pretty far out there, and so it wound up. It was one that we kept pushing off because it was gonna take a lot more time than the other adaptations, and so that's why eventually I would have loved to have seen it. But the basic idea, though, the core idea was take the Slim. Slim has the leech gun, right? And shoot the monster, and it leeches health back to Slim. You take that, you combine it with Kyra's anti-material rifle, where she shoots and puts markers on the monster. So with Lazarus, the idea was he puts these markers on the monster, and then if you shoot the markers, you get healed. And so he couldn't heal the team directly, except for like his heal burst or whatever. But the idea was he would put these markers on the monster, and players would have to shoot the markers to heal themselves while they were playing. And then we combined that with, we were going to change the Lazarus device so that instead of bringing people back at full health or whatever, it would work at range. He could bring them back at range, but it would bring them back as kind of like a zombie. The idea being he would have temp health, and the health would be decaying over time. And so if you wanted to, so you'd come back as a zombie if I revived you. You'd come back as a zombie, and then your health is decaying, so you'd have to shoot the targets in order to keep yourself alive. And if you didn't shoot the targets, then you would die. So you would. The interesting thing is the way that would play out. The way we thought it would play out is if we were fighting the monster. People, I'm putting markers on, everybody's shooting, I'm trying to stay alive, but if you don't and the monster incaps you, I bring you back. And as long as you keep fighting, you can maintain that state. But if the monster runs away, now you can't feed yourself health.
Then you're dying.
And then you fall over and die for real, and you have to come back on the dropship. So it was kind of this, that's what the Necromancer, the Necro, Laz, all played into that stuff. So it was a pretty far out there adaptation, but I was super excited about it. I felt like it would work, and it would change the game, and it still felt like Lazarus, but maybe a darker version of him.
And then I do remember, at least this was with the first design, but with his cloak, it wouldn't be like a traditional cloak. If I remember, like it would, like the idea was it would take him into another like game state was the crazy idea, but more so he would become like some form of like invulnerable or just immaterial in a way, right? Like he wouldn't exist in the world for like a given time.
Yeah, we kind of wanted like the Frodo and the ring thing. You know, when Frodo puts on the ring and he disappears and he's in this other state, nobody can see him, but he can move around, and that's kind of what we wanted to do. But that one got punted on, so we weren't actually going to execute that. We were going to execute on the other stuff, though. The other stuff was actually planned. We were going to do it.
Yeah, that would have been a fun one. I think for me, the one, I don't know, we had a ton of ideas, a bunch of like crazy stuff that we wanted to do. I think the one that always comes back to me is the Hellfire hide, which ended up becoming like Chemtrooper hide. And he had this like, I know Brandon detailed like the full kit, and I always like remember because we had like so many different ideas of it, but just to be the Chemtrooper, right? I always wanted to be like, what would Hyde be like if in that time period, like what would he do? Like what was his kit? And Hyde was just always one of my favorite assaults to play, and probably like one of the assaults I played the most over development and as a player. So it would have been cool to just see like what that looked like. And also for me to see like the Wraith adaptation would have been a lot of fun, since I'm a big Wraith player, always was. So getting to do a more controlling type of Wraith, you know, all about like how she's going to manipulate the hunter's movement and just where is she going to place them, how is she going to like engage in a fight. Like I like that idea a lot, and also that's kind of why I like Wraith. It's just the style is more of, you know, how am I going to engage and how am I going to get the most out of all my abilities. So, so those two for me I think would have been the most fun. Let's see, our next question is, was Obsidian Behemoth ever going to be a thing? I think it's something that Jamie was going to be looking into. You know, she was starting to do like the glitter skins that we talked about, but just figuring out like different types of skin textures and all that kind of stuff. Like what can we do within the engine to, you know, create cool content? Right. And this is one of those like that she would have probably gotten to eventually, because she's just crazy and all over the place.
Do they mean like a shader? Was it a skin thing, or was it a?
I think a skin thing.
Oh, okay.
Like just like the obsidian type material on Behemoth, right? Like I think that's the cool thing. Like, you know, his name is Rocky for us, right? Like that's the cool things with him is you can do so many neat looking just looks to him, and it just would have worked, right? It would be really weird to have like Obsidian Goliath, right? But Obsidian Behemoth is like, yeah, let's do it, right? So I think, you know, if we would have got there, we probably would have done it one day. So let's see. This is a fun one. If you had one more month to work on Evolve, what would you want to accomplish?
I mean, obviously, for me, it would be consoles, right? Porting Stage 2 to consoles. It's not really the way things. I mean, I guess the question is, what would you want to do? Yeah. And so I guess there's the kind of the two things. Like bringing Stage 2 to consoles is more of a financial question, like you know, how much does it cost and all that kind of stuff, right? That's not really a creative thing, you know. If you're, but that would have been my number one priority. It's not my decision at the end of the day, right? But creatively, like what would I have want to? What would I want to have done? With one more month, that's not a lot of time.
Yeah, 1 month in dev is just like.
I mean, maybe you know, I would like to have seen the other adaptations on the rest of the hunters, because those wound up being the rest of and Wraith, as you mentioned. Do the rest of the monsters, do the rest of the hunters. Although that's a lot more than a month's worth of work. So I guess it doesn't do that question justice. But I think that's one sort of misconception where people who haven't worked in game development before don't really understand the amount of time and manpower it takes to do something, even like an adaptation, which is a lot simpler than building a brand new character from scratch. But an adaptation will still take months to build, just one, right?
And especially a lot of our characters are heavy on effects. Like Bob Skull or Behemoth, or Glacial Behemoth, for example, like took our FX artists a long time, because there's so many little things that need to be done right before that monster can be in a like playable state with effects and all that and be ready to go. Whereas like a hunter won't take as much time, so it's like you could probably push out a hunter adaptation like close to a month. Like it's really tight, right?
Depending on the design.
Depending on like what you do.
Wouldn't
be
Necromancer.
Yeah, no.
Necrolaz.
Like I guess for me, if we had one more month, God, I don't know. There's like so many little things. It's hard to say. Like there's no easy thing that can be done in a month, but I would say tackling another hunter adaptation, probably like doing the hide one, even though it takes a ton of code. and the engineers would be very angry at me. We could do it. And also working on more maps. Like we just got through the dam thing that one of our QA guys actually started learning the editor to start doing, working alongside Thomas, and then being able to do that to more maps and just start pushing them into customs to get the more players' feedback. That way we could start taking the big steps, because dam was at a general like, hey, the layout is done, and then we needed to like start building and populating it and creating the play spaces a lot more, because one common thing was just it's flat. Matt Colville just said answer faster, and this is the last question, so
right.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys. This is great. Great place here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I feel. That's what I would have done. But yeah, I think as Matt Colville just said, and everyone on the Angry Monitor is saying, I think that's
time for us to move on to the next thing.
For my bit, I'm done here. Colville will be coming on, and then we'll also have a little transition. Then you guys will answer more questions, do more cool stuff. But stay tuned, guys.
And we're going to show you, yeah. So
wait,
the next segment we'll show you guys some development
cool
stuff.
stuff.
Yep.
So, all right, well, that's going to be it for this segment. Stay tuned, guys, and we will be right back.
It meant a lot for us to stand on our own 2 feet and prove that we were the real deal, that Turtle Rock Studios was a real AAA game developer.
We stayed true to what the game always was.
It was amazing to work on something that no one's ever tried before.
It was clear we had to give it another shot no matter what.
We were so excited that people got this game the way that we did.
Evolve will always be super close to my heart, and it'll always be a part of all of us.
We're not perfect. We tried our best. That's all we can really hope to do.
It's because of you that we were able to do this. If we didn't have fans, then we wouldn't be able to do what we love. We'd be able to make these games, so they're, the #1 most important thing.
That one person that says thank you and you're doing an awesome job, I want to keep going and I want to keep kicking ass for them.
I look forward to showing you guys what we have in store for the future.
#1 thing is to remember that there's more stuff coming. We want our fans and our community to be along for the ride.
We're not done. We've got some great stuff in the oven cooking. That sucks, because I just made a fart noise with my hand.
like
holy shit.
Going back in time, 2013.
Right, yeah.
Such ambition.
We had a lot. We bit off way more than, yeah. We're not live, are we?
Yes.
Nah, there would be little things down there saying who we are. Hey everybody, I'm Chris Ashton. This is Phil
And I'm
Robb.
Matt Colville. Oh wait, Phil Robb? No.
Are we live?
Yes.
Okay, sweet.
I assume. So, do we want to answer questions or do we want to just jump into milestone stuff?
I'm down for whatever.
I can we could do milestone stuff.
You and I have never been on the stream together, have we?
No.
No, this is super exciting.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always stuck with Chloe. So, this is cool to be
yeah.
able to do. Yeah.
Phil was going to do this segment with me, but he had an emergency.
Yeah,
so Colville's doing it, and which is awesome because Colville came onto the project super early.
Yeah, I was like employee number 16 or something.
Yeah, so he was along the ride for much of what we're going to show you guys.
Yeah, and the game it changed a lot, I think, between. But the core principle of 4 versus 1 was there from the very beginning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was always maintained, always proved itself.
Yeah, I remember when every character could use every piece of gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could create some really abusive. that was not gonna be easy to balance.
Well, we should probably let's jump into it. Let's jump into the milestone stuff and then see how that goes, and then we'll do questions afterwards.
So we're gonna roll a milestone video. Is that the idea?
Yes.
So we used to, for those of you joining us, when we were under THQ's banner, the original publisher of the game, we would, Chris, mostly, I think, would every month send them, and there was no obligation to do this. They didn't ask for this. We just wanted to show off what we were working on, what we were doing. And so Chris would make these videos, and he would just, perhaps every day, I think at around 6:30, we would play the game, and Chris would just record his game. And then we would take it and edit it and splice it together and pick out all the best parts and put it in front of THQ. And every month they were like, that's amazing, more.
Yep. So what you'll see there at the top, it says MS5. That stands for Milestone 5. So effectively, this is 5 months into production.
Yep.
So what we had was we had a procedural spawning system that would spawn meats. So you can see one of our modelers had fun. Hassanauer went and created like ribs.
Yeah, there's like a leg of
so
ham.
So the idea is there's small, medium, and large food that gets spawned in the world. And then the monster can go around and eat it. And if he eats enough energy, then he can stage up. And if he sprints, he uses energy.
And you can see he's leaving. You see those little red dots are his smell, and it's drift. You can see that smell is drifting slightly because of like the wind and stuff. And then there's the yellow line, which is his tracks.
Well, that is
it's the other way around.
backwards. Yeah. So the red is the footprints, and then yellow is the smell. So the idea was that kind of like the idea was like hunting, lions hunting and stuff like that, that the monster would be able to smell if he was downwind, and you'd have to pay attention to the wind direction and stuff and your positioning inside of the map. And then here's like the first models we built for creatures, for wildlife. They were the Armadon.
I mean, you can tell this is how video game development works. Like the little dots, the blue and red dots, were enough to test. We didn't need any art assets. We didn't need to make it look pretty. We just needed those little dots and lines in order to test the idea of tracking footprints and scent.
Yeah,
that worked. That worked for months. That's how we played.
Yeah. So you'll see. So this is MS6 now. This is the next month now. Scorpid. This is Scorpid, by the way. It was the
only monster we had for a while.
Yeah. You could do this Spore Cloud. And the Spore Cloud, you would lose the teammates' HUD information. They would disappear inside the cloud, and you would lose all the tracks and the scents, and all that stuff would go away. And it was an escape device for the monster. So
it was super disorienting for the players. It was very effective.
People hated it.
Yeah,
effective. It was really effective, but people hated it.
Yeah, it wasn't fun to get stuck in that thing. It was a charge attack, right?
Yeah. First, fun. So Milestone 5, he could just do claws. And Milestone 6, now he gets Charge Attack and Spore Cloud. And so Charge Attack actually wound up sticking all the way through development.
I mean, Scorpid basically evolved into Goliath and still has that ability.
So this is Milestone 7 now, and you can see we're starting to mess with lighting and try. This was an attempt to do like very realistic lighting. And I thought it looked amazing visually, but it was one of those things when you were in here playing, it was really hard.
You can see it makes noise everywhere, and there were also, it was entirely possible for a player to just hide in a bush, right? And that ended up being, kind of frustrating for the monster sometimes.
Yeah, so...
also notice that it doesn't look like that much of an alien world. Right. Remember, we wanted it to look like an alien planet, and people would often.
We'll see versions here. It will get more alien, and then we wind up pulling it back because the super alien environment becomes distracting. From.
Yeah, we could put plants in there that looked crazy and stuff, but it ended up just making the landscape just too weird.
I don't know if it's in this one yet, but I think it is. When players die, they turn into cupcakes. So we had...
that's the origin of the cupcake Easter egg.
Right. What you see on like Sunny's keychain on her grenade launcher.
Pictures of cupcakes hidden around in the dropship and stuff.
So this is milestone 8. We really felt like this.
Is this volcano? Is this?
This was a volcano map.
God, how many hours did we spend on this map?
Forever.
Hundreds. We've spent hundreds of hours on
this. Was effectively our No Mercy of Evolve, where we just spent.
This is where you would stand. This was the highest point on the map. You would literally have to stand here and just look at the landscape and wait to see birds fly around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if, you didn't start where the monster did. So the monster started someplace else.
Yep.
And you had to figure out where the monster was. There was no planet scanner.
No.
There was no mobile arena.
Oh no.
So it was a lot, actually, a lot more.
A sim. It was like a simulation.
Yeah, it was a lot more of a hunting simulator where you had to take time. You had to look for bird sign. You had to listen for animals.
Yep.
And it certainly, I think, was a valid. It's definitely a valid sort of way to play.
Sure,
but you'd have rounds where you couldn't find the monster.
Yeah,
you'd have
be super frustrating.
And THQ, even at this point, people would play it up there, and their big concern was just that there was a lot of downtime, a lot of time where.
Oh, remember these things? These are the Reavers.
These guys, were plated apes, and they would eventually become Reavers. A huge thing, you can also see that the monster is first person.
Yeah, that's right. It was a long time before we went to third person.
We stayed first person.
It was a controversial decision, too.
We stayed first person forever.
Long time, yeah, but with people being able to harpoon you and stuff, you wouldn't know.
And you'll see that in some of these videos when we get the harpoon built, that you can't tell as you're the monster that you're harpooned because it's behind you.
Unless we put a thing on your HUD that said you have been harpooned, and that was just bad design.
So also the idea was monsters had a lot more than 4 abilities. And I think at this time we were going for 10. We were aiming for 10, right. and whenever you could sort of mix and match and pull those 10 down.
Yeah, and each I remember like the different abilities would change the Scorpid model. Like
that comes later,
Okay.
when we get to the next version of Scorpid, like 2.0. Goliath is sort of 3.0, but maybe 4.0 even.
Right. Yeah.
But
so you can see here somebody's hiding in the legs of this tree, and there was no real way for the monster to get in there. They just have to like breathe fire on you or something.
Yeah, it was sort of fun and sort of frustrating.
Yeah. There were definitely moments where it was awesome, but we spent a lot of our time chasing those moments, and so.
Yeah. By the way, for you and for Colville, whenever we see the red evolve text, we'll shut up.
Okay.
Because it'll be a higher volume, and we want to showcase what's in the video, and so we'll let everybody listen peacefully, and then when it does the text again, then we know we're back to talking.
What is that?
So, a little bit like the AI director in Left 4 Dead, this was a point in time where we were messing with an idea of as you go through the world, it would look at the intensity, and if your intensity got too low, it would spawn bad guys. It would spawn predators to try to come kill the player. To try to guarantee, because again, THQ was worried about the intensity of the game, and this was a way to sort of guarantee that you would always have that roller coaster ride.
Yep, just like Left 4 Dead.
So
there's Clay's old HUD. Wow.
It worked. It worked, but the difference is in Left 4 Dead, the zombies are your enemy, and in this game, the monster is your enemy, right? And so you don't really want to be fighting wildlife unless you choose to, right? Which is where we wound up with in the shipping version.
I mean, it took us a long time to come to the realization that losing to the wildlife in a game where you're expecting to play against another human was not satisfying.
So you can see we don't have ragdolls yet. We don't care because we can play the game fine with it model swapping, so it just spawns steaks. If these were medium, so they got steaks. The hams were small, the ribs were large, and cupcakes were the super juicy humans.
Yep.
So now we get to this is basically Scorpid version 2.0.
Look at that thing! God, man, look at that thing.
This was we felt like the first version was almost kind of cartoony.
It was a little bit too crab-like.
And very crab-like,
didn't look alien enough.
Didn't look like a monster, right? Yeah. And so we did a lot of looking at movies and said, okay, what makes a monster scary, right? And it's a lot of pointy things. It's a lot of, we thought with this version, dark shapes.
Yeah. I mean, people would see, when they played for the first time, they'd see an Armadon and go, oh, I found the monster.
Right.
And we're like, no, we needed to make sure that when you saw this thing, you went, oh, no, that's the monster.
Right. So now here we get into this idea that as monsters choose,
claw, grabber claw.
Yeah, you got 10 different abilities, and whichever abilities you're choosing, the visuals of the monster change accordingly.
Yep.
So that as a hunter, I can see what abilities you have.
No! Keep shooting, guys. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Oh, he's gonna heal. You can pick up my weapon.
I don't think he wants to go over
My
there.
weapons are on the ground, right at his feet.
Oh, he grabbed me through the trees. Come on, anybody shoot her. Oh, he's flying. We had a good run there.
Yeah, we almost got him.
Yeah, we were real close. It's up to free.
I ain't doing shit.
The beacon's planted though, right?
Yeah. Yeah, at the compound. Uh-oh. Shoot! Just shoot him.
Oh, not good, not good, not good. What's his health at? Leave it alone! Oh, you killed it.
No, move on.
Okay.
You can do it, Frida.
No, I
How many
can't.
people do we have left?
Shoot him!
You got
Jump
to
off
shoot
the
him.
cliff, maybe he'll follow you.
Oh, okay. Yeah! Shoot him!
How does that happen?
Shoot him! Oh, shoot him.
Maybe he'll follow you.
Oh!
Wow.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. You got to see the beacon. You got to see
Yeah.
somebody grabbed in a claw and walking around. I remember when Oakley would grab somebody and then drown them.
You're right. Yep. So monsters, you could fall out of the map, and obviously, and so that was an awesome moment for the hunters, thinking that, and you could see bugs. Right, the throw didn't work, and we don't know why. Whatever, it failed. Oh, this is a super early. This is the Claymore super early version of Markov's, what would eventually become Markov's arc mines.
Yeah. We also had stuff like, remember the flying cameras? Are they in here? Like you had a shotgun that shot cameras that would fly through the map, and you could just toggle between the different cameras and look down.
So here's the harpoon in first person. I can see it if it's in front of me. I can't see if it's behind me. So you had to stop and read the text.
You have been harpooned.
You have been harpooned.
Which is terrible, because people, if you put text on screen like that, people are often
they just look past
beyond it. Yeah, therefore,
Yeah.
oh, here come the parachute cameras. Yeah, these were super cool.
So we had you could change ammo types.
Yeah.
So the grenade launcher could shoot fire grenades, it could shoot regular HE grenades, and it could shoot parachute camera grenades. So you could fire as many as you wanted to, and they would fly the direction that you were facing, and then they'd fly over the terrain kind of slowly. And then you could swap to them. You could view from any of those cameras and see the terrain from kind of bird's eye view. And that was another way to scout the environment and look for the monster. And then, of course, you could, just like Bucket's UAV used to be, you could mark a waypoint marker.
But anyone
if you
could
found
use the camera. Once the camera was up in the air, you would just tell everybody, hey, I launched the camera. And then anyone could switch to it, which was pretty cool. Yeah, and we also had cameras you could stick on trees and walls and stuff like that. That was less useful. I remember that was brief.
Yeah, that was the same milestone, but the parachute cameras are so much better than the cameras you had to place in the world that we left them out. This was it was a fun experience. I was listening, and I could hear the monster eating, and so I was running through the environment trying to find the monster. I could hear him eating, and I actually run into him. Right there.
Oh wow! And look, he's
just
like stage one. He's like human-sized. Yep. I mean, that's you can see how big and open these maps are. They're very different than the maps we shipped with. And the first thing you would do in a game, you and your 3 teammates would land on the map, and you would immediately split up and go in 4 directions, because you were trying to cover as much ground as possible and find. And you know, I remember Phil. I'll speak for Phil. He wasn't here. Phil hated that. Phil, like, I don't feel like I'm on a team. I don't feel like I'm playing with my friends.
Right.
And I remember saying, oh, we should just come up with all these game mechanics of like unit coherency bonuses, and if you stick together, you get speed. And you were like, no, man, we're just going to make the maps darker and scarier, and people are going to want to stick together. And I was like, that'll never work. And it totally worked. I was completely wrong. Cupcake.
Cupcakes, yep. You can see the smells too, where we had the yellow, the yellow dots that would float over the environment before. We turned them into particle systems that would float around, so it was a way to track. You track footprints as well as smells, and that's why you see the purple colors and stuff floating around every now and then.
You are slowed. Once again, we had to make sure people understood what was going on. Yep. God, I spent so much time. Do we still have this build? We should fire it up and play it.
It's not very good. I mean, that's one of the things for people to remember is that this stuff, there's cool bits in here and it looks cool and it would be fun to try, but it would be a very short sort of fun to try thing. It would be fun to try for a couple hours maybe. But then after that, it's ultimately we moved away from this stuff because it didn't work.
Yeah, because you might spend, I mean, it wasn't unusual for a game to last half an hour. And of that half an hour, you might spend 3 minutes.
We had games. We had a game, you remember Hassenauer's game lasted almost 2 hours or something like that.
Crazy.
It was a gnarly standoff between the two teams. It was just ridiculous.
Yeah, and most of that time was not spent doing the stuff you expect to do at all.
So this was a fun experiment. We had a heavy machine gun here that was inaccurate when you were running around with it, but then you could deploy, and it took time, and then it would fire super accurate when you were deployed. It would fire super accurate and more powerful. So it was really damaging if you were deployed, but then you were stuck in this state. And I think I loved it, and once you understood it, it was a fun mechanic. It was fun trying to, because when you found the right place to park.
And you would set up your tripod, basically.
Yeah.
You could just do a ridiculous amount of damage.
Right, and that was super fun, but the frustration was that's not an intuitive system.
Well, plus it was just a nightmare to deal with animation when the monster would hit you.
Right.
And it would knock you out. Would it leave my tripod there? Do I have to go back and get it? That doesn't make any sense. No weapon works that way in our game. Oh, the host! Look at this thing.
Yeah.
Oh my God! The first time I saw this in the game, I did not know it was going in, and it had burrowed. The monsters could burrow underground, and I was just running around, and this thing sprouted out of the ground, and I literally squealed. I was like, ah! I was completely fucking terrified. I had no idea it was ready. Yeah, this was a hideous, hideous beast.
This was our second monster, so now we had Scorpid 2.0, and so we thought, let's do something completely different now. Yeah. Let's make it radically different to be a different monster. So the idea with the host was that he was the host to a bunch of parasites, and that he could control the parasites
on his back. They would grow on his back.
They'd grow on his back. They'd give him he would inherit some abilities while he had him on his back, but then if he sent him off, he would lose those abilities.
So you could have flying parasites, and while you had them on your back, you could fly.
Right.
But if you sent them at somebody, then you were grounded.
Right. So it was a lot more like almost RTS-y, where you had these units that you could send around the map, position them.
Yep. You would pick which units you want: bombardier parasites, you want archer parasites, and you would just send your minions off to fight the heroes and annoy the hell out of them.
Yeah.
It was the how to annoy your friends monster.
And this was the first version of. Eventually, this would become Goliath's fire breath, but it was basically it was like shooting a fireball at first, and so it would shoot this fireball and have an initial impact, and then there would be burning damage inside of this radius for X amount of time, like a second, a couple seconds or something afterwards. See those scorpions get turned to hams.
Yeah.
And then this was just a cool bit of footage. It started to feel like this sequence felt very monster-y. A lot of big explosions, a lot of crazy stuff happening.
Yeah. This is all in the same map, by the way. All this, I remember where. Yeah. And the monster has like a projectile sonic blast. If it took the right claw, it would just.
Yeah, that was concussion blast that got turned into Kraken's vortex later.
Yeah. And we would just take 2 concussion blasts.
And then you could chain. Yeah, you could stun lock people, which was terrible for hunters. But a lot of this stuff visually looked really cool.
I think I am the reason that we turned off friendly fire, because I would play with you and I would just take the grenade launcher and I would hammer whoever was fighting the monster, and you would just be like, God damn it!
Yeah, well, it's just grenade launchers. Realistically, the monster's chasing, because monsters use a lot of melee. The monster's chasing your teammate.
Yeah.
So your teammate
right up there
your teammate can't stay away from the monster, and then you're sitting in the back lobbing grenades at the monster. You're going to hit your teammate. There's no way around it.
Yeah. You don't want to punish people for taking the grenade launcher.
Right.
Saying, sorry, you can't use it when you're.
And so it was just kind of a realization that friendly fire did not work in this game.
Look at how it moves. Like it moves like this crazy like assemblage of limbs. Like it didn't evolve naturally. Like it just grabbed whatever was nearby. It was so hideous, but it was such a pain in the butt. Like.
Yeah.
It was never fun to run. It was never fun to play against. You were always trying to figure out.
You know, as the monster, it was really fun to be the monster, to have these minions and see them chewing up hunters from a distance, and you're safe and there's no problem. For a hunter, it was extremely frustrating because you spent all of your time shooting these little hard to shoot, like flying ones or crawling ones or jumping ones, or.
And success didn't do anything to you. Like if you killed those little guys. You didn't win. There was just more guys. There were more little parasites.
He would just spawn more, We even had an egg layer one.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that? It would jump on your face, and you would be blind for a certain amount of time, and then it would just fall off dead.
Yeah.
And it would have laid an egg in you, and then you would grow this egg on sack on your back, and then it would hatch, and when it hatched, it would kill you. So
couldn't people shoot the?
They could shoot it off your face. So then teammates would get a thing on their face, and then people would shoot them in the face, and it was just super weird. This was a thing, smell compass, sniff compass, where the smells were really good for short range, but they weren't helpful for long range. And so we added the sniff compass where when you sniffed. Oh, now we gotta shut up.
Yeah.
How do we pose?
You just have to go face. You're a little.
Of course, that's gonna happen.
Hey, enough of that.
Type heal if you're hurt, because I want an even fight.
So, of course, we had two monsters in the game now, so why not make them face off? And this is when we learned that wasn't really a viable game mode. So the monster, and you had the host who's had an army of small things, and
Quit stealing my kills, Sean.
Oh, there's a slot.
I'm not getting. No way. There's two Armadons here. There's two Armadons on the freaking bridge.
Jump in the water. I'm jumping.
No.
I'm alive.
Just run.
I'm alive.
Just run.
Right here.
Wow, that was pretty freaking. Oh
that was
no,
the
I
coolest
fell.
jump ever.
I fell off the bridge. Oh.
Now you wish you jumped.
Oh look, how did you guys get down there?
Me and Sean are totally safe.
Jumped into the
water.
Into the water. Yep.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was crazy how far
Right
that
before
was
it,
to
right
fall.
before it hit the water, it did the skydiving effect. It was extra cool.
Yeah.
There was a slot and an Armadon charging it, and then there was two Armadons on the other side, like the bridge was jammed.
Yeah, I don't think anything's getting shot.
We just turned and jumped over the side.
I got 3 Armadons breaking my dead.
Where is it? Where's Daniel?
I see. Oh.
Was that Rig?
Jeez.
I hope they can hear the audio.
Me too. It's hard to be quiet for that long.
Yeah, it is, right? Yeah, I wish I could hear. We can't hear what they're saying.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear.
It's worth noting in those videos, the reason we had that moment on the bridge with the Armadons and the Sloth is because we didn't have jetpacks.
Correct. Yeah, there was
early on, and so it made wildlife. It got you into these scenarios where there's an Armadon in front of you. You can only go forwards or backwards, and you're gonna.
There's a Crowbill Sloth behind you.
So this guy's in trouble, and there's no easy way out for him, right? And later on, we got jetpacks, and all of that sort of gameplay went away.
Yeah.
It's a really, really tough thing because there was so much fun in that. But again, the wildlife wasn't ever supposed to be the focus.
Right. Yeah.
And jetpacks were so much fun and gave the hunters such a feeling of freedom that we really had to say, okay, I'm going to miss that gameplay. I'm going to miss being scared of an Armadon.
Right, but fundamentally the game was not about fighting the wildlife. It was about fighting the other players, 4v1.
Yeah.
And so you would spend, this was a situation you'd get into where if somebody didn't come help you, you would just be screwed. And it's like, this sucks, this isn't fun.
So this is milestone 15. We're 15 months in now. This was our vertical slice build for THQ, and what vertical slice means is that it's a section of the game that is what you would consider, well, the intent is to be of sort of shipping quality visually. And so this is really where later on the game, of course, THQ filed bankruptcy, and then 2K purchased the game, and then they we decided to go to also the new console systems came out.
Yep,
so
we had a whole new generation.
We had a new generation. The graphics had to look better. So we wound up. This really didn't, at the end of the day, wind up being vertical slice. We wound up going much.
It's worth noting. I mean, the point is, this is how we thought the game would look. There was a time when we thought, this is indicative of what you're going to see in the final game. There's all the gameplay is here. These are the character models we thought we were going to ship with.
Yeah, and the game worked and it played.
Yeah.
So here's you could choose. Now we had all this gear you could choose. You could choose bionic legs, so which would let you fall. Normally there was fall damage in the game, or you could choose a jetpack.
Yeah.
And
not both.
The realities were everybody chose jetpack all the time.
Yeah. I gotta cover up my scent because I smell delicious.
Oh yeah, we let them hear this stuff. I think
this is the first VO, I think, too.
Yeah,
we had finally recorded dialogue.
It's super funny. I thought that's why I kept that in there. And so now we still had Scorpion, but he had all these different model bits. So you could see he could choose light armor or heavy armor. That's an eye for burrowing.
Yes. So yeah, that was crazy. I love burrowing, man. Burrowing was awesome.
The only thing you could see is this eye, and then he'd pop up.
And the funny thing was, people would see they knew you were burrowed in an area sometimes, but it was well disguised enough that it wasn't obvious. They would run around and be like, "Where is he? He's got to be around here somewhere."
Basher Claw.
Yeah.
Never really.
Shield Claw. There was like a big shield claw you could put up.
Yeah, the Basher Claw never really panned out.
It was basically impossible to make all of these different choices equally useful. And so you would end up, consensus would build, and you'd end up with three or four different abilities that everybody used all the time. And so we said, okay, well,
let's just make four that are really awesome.
Yeah.
Instead of have these.
Yep.
This few that don't ever get used. So Grabber Claw, this was a lot of fun. It did have problems.
You could pick somebody up and you could throw them across the map.
That only works if you have fall damage. Once we got jetpacks in and we started to ease off the fall damage, then Grabber Claw was totally useless.
Well, those of you who've been watching the stream for a little while, remember when I pointed out the rock you would stand on to look at the map. Yeah. And it would be astonishing when you're sitting there looking and the monster had picked up someone and would knock you off that rock with another player's body that they had hurled at you. And that was awesome. That was hysterical. Is that the Stinger?
That's the Spore Cloud launcher. Yeah, so while this stuff was really cool, we had 3 stages of monsters, and each stage had to have all those different pieces.
Yep.
And they all had their own textures and everything, and it was this army of bits and pieces. I can't remember for Scorpid, there were something like 60 pieces that had to be textured, and every time we tuned the shaders differently, changed the shininess, we'd have to do it on all those pieces. It was a real nightmare, so eventually we just moved away from, it was super expensive. You had to have bones for all the different pieces on the skeleton at all times. So it was super expensive, and ultimately we moved away from
You can see all the different,
showing the
all the different
abilities.
parasites. You could look at the host and see which parasites it had taken, and it would just send these things after you. And we saw the archer parasites that were shooting. These are the poison ones, I think.
The bombers.
Yeah, you'd shoot them and they would explode. So you had to get them before they got too close to you because, yeah, this thing was awful. This horrible, ugly red gash down the middle of it that doesn't remind me of anything. Wow, God.
Mines.
This is as far as we took monster design, I think. This is as far
Mines
as
were
we
super went.
fun.
You'd drop a bunch of mines in bushes and stuff, and then the hunters you could hear later on would you'd hear one explode, and you'd hear hunters yell, and you knew that you got them, and you'd be excited about it.
Didn't we once talk about making it so that the monster could hear the hunters, but he wouldn't be able to understand them?
We did talk about it. We never did that.
Crazy.
Yeah. So that's an example of
the
the wasp. If you had him on his back, he could fly. If you sent him to the hunter like this, then he lost the ability to fly. Same with the armor. So the armor parasites. If you shot him, and he had parasites on his back, I know he should.
Yeah, shut up.
Monster listening doohickey deployed.
Audience.
Planting a sensor. Man, this monster is screwed. We got all the tech and it ain't got shit.
Spent 3 months in Sharankov space so I could smell like an alien plant.
See the universe, smell like shit. Why not?
Gotta cover up my smell, because I smell delicious.
So is that the end of the sequence?
Yep. So this is Trap Jaws, introducing Trap Jaws, and they were originally supposed to make the monster have to abandon some food, which they kind of sort of do. But the other big thing was that they were supposed to spawn far away and run to the corpse. And so like in this shot, the hunters maybe they're looking for the monster and they see a pack of trap jaws running. So now I can follow those trap jaws. They're going to lead me to the kill that the monster just killed. Really cool idea. But what happened is when we started to tune and balance the game, fine-tune everything, eating kept getting faster and faster and faster for the monster because that's not like a core fun part of the game.
No, it's not fun to sit there going.
So as eating got faster and faster, the trap jaws had less and less time to spawn and run to the corpse and stuff. So that idea of sort of using them for tracking really fell by the wayside.
Yeah, and we'd imagined a much more complex ecology, but all that stuff started to shrink because none of that supported the gameplay of 4 versus 1. It was all just it supported the fantasy, but it got in the way. Yeah, look at that thing. Do you have the Titan in here?
I do.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. Only reason I put this in, by the way, there's a ton of stuff of we have probably 10 hours or something of milestone videos, and I had to try to cull it down so that we could go through it together, and so I culled it down for the most part to.
This thing! Oh, the rocket launcher! This is awesome!
To stuff that's fun to talk about, so you won't see a lot of stuff that's in there, but yeah, we had this ammo case. We had rocket launchers, which are really powerful, but then we had an ammo case that you actually had to carry around.
Yes. In a weird way, that ammo case sort of became Emmett. That ammo case eventually became Bullet Bob.
Right.
And Bullet Bob needed I wanted to give it dialogue, so we came up with this, it's like an insane death robot. And that ended up being half of Emmett's personality. You could have someone else pick up the ammo case and run after you. So you would have them, as long as your teammate had the ammo case, you could continue firing this thing. And so I remember playing with Ray, one of our programmers, and I would just follow him around with the ammo case. So he had essentially unlimited ammo. And that was astonishing. Yeah. Oh, here we go. This is crazy. Yeah, look at the crashed ship in the background.
So this, we thought about doing, so this was basically an Armadon. The idea was a different model, a totally different model on the same basic rig, so we could reuse the Armadon animations And then we could change behavior slightly, change animation slightly to make it a variant. Our concern initially was, would that feel cheap? Would players see through that stuff and feel like it was a cheap ripoff? But later on, the concern before shipping was just time to do that stuff, to execute on that stuff. So a lot of those monster wildlife variants got cut. This is the whip spider.
This is a monster. This is one of the playable
This is one of the playable monsters, and the idea is super radical idea. Again, we were trying to make all the monsters so extremely different. The idea with the whip spider was that you would be blind, and you would have to use sound. So in a later milestone, we'll actually show you footage of the player playing the whip spider, and the environment's dark, and you can hear when things make sounds, they light up the environment.
Yeah, so it was like, and you had active sonar.
And you could call out, and when you called out, it would bounce off the world, and you could see. It's just
it worked, though. I don't remember it being like I remember it being basically fun.
It had some stuff. I mean, it was the first monster that we tried to make that just had a mouth instead of claws.
Yeah.
And that mouth is such short range and so hard to get to players that wound up not being effective. And so we've never shipped a monster that just attacks with a mouth now.
Correct.
That was such a.
Oh, here comes the Titan. This was the biggest thing. This thing was huge.
So the Titan was massive, and
you couldn't kill it, could you?
You couldn't kill it. The idea was that it was a hazard. It was just a hazard that would be in the map, and so you'd be running around a map, and then this thing would pop out of the ground, and it would, if you did, and it would give you a warning. It would shake the ground, and if you didn't get out of that area quick enough, it would pop out of the ground, and then it would grab a hunter and kill him. So it's kind of like. It was kind of like a carnivorous plant or a tyrant or something like that, where it's like this hazard that you got to look out for.
There was a great video, is it in here, of the players?
It is.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah. But that wound up not being fun, as you can imagine.
Lots of stuff you can't imagine turns out not to be fun when you stick it in the game.
It's Chimera. Again, this was a biting. The idea for this one was that he doesn't have arms.
No,
he's got these little flippers up front. So he would need to bite you, and that's really, really hard to do for hunters that are running around.
Yeah, with jetpacks.
With jetpacks and stuff, for him to be able to bite, he doesn't have these arms where he can leap and slash and stuff. So for him to have bite attacks was very hard to execute on.
Oh, I remember these things, yeah.
And these huskbacks, kind of like obsidian grubs, so they would turtle up, and when they were turtled, you couldn't hurt him, and if you got too close, he would just kick you. And the idea was you had to bash him in order to knock him on his belly and then shoot his underside.
Yep.
And again, that's super cool, but if you're a new player, how do you learn that stuff?
Yeah, you have to teach it to the player.
It's just frustrating.
And you're not interacting with the other player. You're interacting with the wildlife.
Right. This was the first version of Wraith. This was the teleporter. You can see she's very, in this initial version, she's very sort of geeky. So,
the teleporter was so crazy.
Yeah, it was so different. Again, trying to be radically different. So there's a little like.
I mean, the teleporter changed our map design. Remember we had lava maps, and the teleporter player would just
she
grab
ruined it. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like.
Yeah. So she could float. She could hover. Kind of like Wraith does now, but you see the left arrow there. That means yes, you can teleport to that location.
Yeah.
If there's not an arrow, then you can't. But you could teleport really long distances, and if you did, it would leave a wake.
Yep.
And so the blue is the in, the green is the out. And so as a hunter, what that meant was the teleporter could move around the map very quickly. Hunters could follow as long as they made it into those.
Right, because they decayed over time.
They decayed over time. So as long as a hunter went in those, they could follow.
And the idea was that there was some danger that the party would get separated. That some people would make it through the gate, and maybe some people.
And you didn't know. Maybe you couldn't see exactly where it was, where it went, so where it would end up. And then this was a swap. So instead of teleporting, if I look at a target, then I get the other arrow, which means I could swap places with them. And remember, we had fall damage, so I could drop off a cliff. I could swap with a hunter.
Yeah, you could target a hunter. You could be up in the air, target a hunter, and swap with them.
Right.
And now the hunter was in the air and would fall and die.
Right.
Especially if they were over lava.
Yeah. That's where we were abusing the lava maps.
I liked Recall. You could drop a point in the map and then go anywhere and hit a button and instantly teleport back to that place.
Yeah, so recall was like this anchor point.
Yeah.
And you could recall to that point. And then blink was just exactly what blink is traditionally. You teleport to a random location within like a 30-meter radius or something like that. So you could just keep popping around.
How annoying was this monster to play against?
I loved it, man. Except for this, black hole was dumb. It would basically suck the players to that location. So damage change, super geeky.
Yeah, I remember this. God, this is a pain.
You have to, when you trigger it, you have to cross over, use your cursor to select targets. It will hit targets in that order. Each time it hits a target, it doubles the damage, So
and you're teleporting to those places. So you pick 4 hunters, and you go tag, 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 and your monster would go teleport, 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 teleport.
Yeah.
If you could do it, if you could pull it off.
Yeah,
you did more damage
so the idea was if I was a hunter and I turned on my shield and I was the first guy to get hit, that it would break that chain and it would save my second, third, and fourth teammate from taking damage.
Yeah. Look at all the different abilities the monster had, right? It didn't just have 4 abilities, it had a ton of different abilities.
So this was the EMP. It would get rid of med guns, it would pop shields, all that kind of stuff.
Didn't Whip Spider basically turn into Gorgon? Wasn't that the
I mean, it was the inspiration for it, but there's not really there's not really much at all that carried over. So yeah, here you can see it's very dark. You can't see very much when he makes this, those waves are sound waves coming towards the player. And then when they shout.
Look at how dark it is. Look how you can only see the area right in front of you. But then you could see,
And so the idea was you'd get into combat with the hunters and they'd light up, right? Yeah. But if they stopped shooting and were quiet, that they would go dark and they would be hard to see. Really fun concept.
Yeah, very different. I mean, the idea of playing around with how you saw. Like we wanted to monkey with everything, how you moved, everything, how you saw the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was super cool.
So yeah, here you can see here, basically what he's doing is, now the grapple tongue, he had a tongue that would grapple and pull. That did carry over. It was one of the things that we felt worked pretty well and was fun, and so we would carry that over to the Gorgon. But Gorgon doesn't have to, the web sling doesn't have to hit anything. Right. This you had to actually anchor to something to pull yourself to it. Yeah. So it was a pain in the butt. This was hilarious.
It was, yeah.
So the flicker, I mean, a lot of these ideas and stuff come from watching the Discovery Channel and like Life of Insects and stuff like that.
Like a flea.
These ideas like a flea, like flicking. You can't really control where you're going to go, but you can get out of danger. And so there.
Look at that! It was so crazy to see this thing just go and shoot up into the air.
Yeah.
Like, okay,
sometimes you would go out of the map and you'd kill yourself by doing that, so you had to be careful where you used it.
Yeah, slime ball. Didn't we have that with Gorgon?
Similar.
Yeah.
Slime ball would stick them to a wall, and then you could attack while they were stuck to the wall.
Yep. We have 33 minutes left. We've been told.
I have to pee so bad.
You gotta hold it.
I drank some tea.
Well, look at that thing. That is super cool.
This again with the reskins, the idea with this was that it was going to do the same thing as the Blitz Leopard.
Yeah.
Play off a lot of those animations and stuff like that. So we'll see here, looked really cool, and then you'll see some animations rendered out of Max. It never did get any AI. It never did make it into the game.
Right.
Again, because we wound up punting on variants because we didn't have enough time.
Yeah.
And they also became a lower priority once we realized that wildlife really wasn't the focus of the game. Then, okay, well, our animators could spend all this time, and our AI guys could spend all this time on this thing, or we could go make the monster experience better.
Video game development is often a process of how long would it take to do it? Okay, how long would it take to do it right? Holy crap, right? And just doing it so that everything needs its own behavior, its own animations, and all that was time not spent making the monsters better.
So now, we knew that next-gen consoles were coming. You remember the Armadon that we showed in the very first milestone 4 or 5 or something like that. This was a new version of that where, okay, now we got to be on the next-gen systems. Now we need higher polys, higher resolution textures, all that kind of stuff. So the Armadon gets rebuilt again from scratch. And this wouldn't be the final version of it either.
It looks amazing.
It does look super cool. probably too high poly at the end of the day. And we had readability things. So like if you look at sort of normal wildlife does blend into the environment, and it does that on purpose, right? And so we started to have that problem in our maps where the hunters blended in, the wildlife blended in, the monsters blended in. You know, even this is an early version of Kraken. This is what we called the grounder. And he didn't fly all the time, he could glide. So you had to climb up to tall locations and then jump off and then glide. So if you could get to a tall peak, you could escape the hunters because you could fly much farther than them. But if you didn't get to a tall peak, you couldn't. And that turned out to be a real frustration for players because they felt like they were so dependent on the environment. They wanted these.
Yeah, it could be frustrating. But I mean, we basically kept the idea that each monster has different locomotion. Right. That was something we stuck to.
Yeah.
You'll see. I'm sure it'll be in here. Like it has these veins that just light up with electricity, like they're these organic batteries, and they were amazing.
This design's super cool, but it also there's a lot of noise.
Where is its mouth, for instance? Like
it's very sort of messy. It blends into the environment. It's not very clean shapes, and we were very concerned, at least with our initial monsters, that they be easily recognizable, that the players could relate to them. You were going to be this guy, not just fight against him. So you wanted to have a character and personality, right? And I think when you look at the new Kraken's face versus this old one.
Oh yeah, he's got this sinister look to his face. His eyes.
So this is old. This is an old version of what would eventually become Behemoth. What we called Rocky, and you'll see like there's even some human skulls and stuff in the sort of dried lava bits.
Again, you can't tell exactly where's its head, where are its eyes.
But again, it was kind of messy. At the end of the day, we had to cut down. We had Goliath, which was Scorpid, which was playing really well. We had the Wraith Teleporter, which was playing really well, and we had Grounder that was playing really well. Whip Spider wasn't, Host wasn't, Rocky wasn't. So all those got punted on.
Yeah, we have a rapid development philosophy here. Where there was a time when we had 3 or 4 or 5 monsters that you could play, and none of them were finished. As soon as we had something playable, we wanted to get it in the game and start testing it.
And you find out very quickly: is it going to work or is it not? Do I keep investing in it? Do we punt on it? So some things we would keep, some things we would punt on. So this was a Dune Wolf, which was basically a reskin of the Venom Hounds, which would tackle you and stuff, but not poison you.
Would jump on you and leap away.
And again, I think in hindsight, it would have been fun to finish those wildlife variants and finish them.
So when is this? Is this 2012?
Yeah, I'm sure it's 2012. So just for everybody, if you're just turning into the stream right now, what we're doing is we're streaming. We're showing you guys footage of old milestone footage, old footage of Evolve during development, the things that we tried, the things that worked, that didn't work. There's Bullet Bob.
There's Bullet Bob and follow you around.
Just
you
as
send Bullet Bob to other,
we felt like.
This is Justin Cherry, I think.
We felt like it's tough to see. It's tough to see development of Evolve stop, but for us, instead of focusing on sort of the sadness of that, right? We really felt like it was a time to celebrate all the things that we did manage to accomplish, the things that we tried, the things that we failed, the things that we proved.
We loved this game, and we put our heart and souls into it. We worked on it. I mean, everything comes to an end. We worked on this thing for years. It was a good run. I mean, this thing.
And we're so proud of it. To be able to do this, so few studios. Everybody who plays games, I think, has ideas about the game that you would make if you could. And so it's incredibly rare in a world full of sequels and licensed products. So incredibly rare to be able to create your own world, your own universe, your own story from scratch. Try gameplay that no one's ever done before. To break new ground for companies like THQ and 2K to put money behind that and say, okay, go do this.
Super risky.
It's really risky. It's really rare. So we feel super privileged so lucky to be able to have. I mean, this was our dream, our fantasy, right? And by and large, we got to execute on.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, this is going to sound super pretentious. I apologize, but this really is a work of art, in the sense that we were allowed to go down blind alleys, and we didn't exactly know where is this going to lead. Is this going to work? We were allowed to try stuff, and if it didn't work, we backtracked and went down a different alley. And that is a purely artistic process. What feels good, what gameplay is fun, what makes a monster look cool. You know, these were all things that we were allowed to experiment with and iterate on. And a lot of that stuff shows in the final product. I mean, I think there is a lot of heart in this game. Here's the,
There's the old original chain lightning that would make its way back in a version in Elder Kraken. And Kraken had an EMP projectile it could shoot out, and then this was this was an electrical storm that did damage over time.
This is funny because this was a late monster, but it obviously worked. It was unlike stuff like Host, which was the second monster we started working on.
Right.
We could never make that. It's not like the later monsters, we didn't have time. No, it was purely just a question of, does it work? Is this idea a good idea? And it turned out that Kraken Grounder was aces. As soon as we put it in, it was fun to play.
So this is Milestone 22. This was Jason Rubin era when he came on.
Jason Rubin, now the guy in charge of Oculus at Facebook.
Running Oculus games. So Rubin came on, and one of the things that he touched on very quickly was that the readability in the game suffered. It was hard to tell. It was hard to see wildlife. It was hard to see hunters. It was hard to see the monsters. And so you see here, like the environment, we started to push all into greens and browns and these natural colors, and then wildlife we started to pop with oranges and stuff like that to try to get them to, rather than blending in, which
is nature,
which is sort of the way natural things work.
Like when I interviewed here, all the artists had atlases of different biologies, and they were all watching David Attenborough documentaries, and that was the research. But it turns out that creatures in the real world don't want to be seen.
You're right.
That's not fun gameplay.
So this is a readability pass. It was basically a reskinning of a lot of the wildlife to see, okay, do they read better now in the environment? How clear are they? Is this a way we want to go art-wise? And so you're seeing us, we're 22 months in here. This is nearly 2 years of development. We're starting to find, the maps are still daylight for the most part here. Eventually we would shift to nighttime.
They were still very large. The maps didn't shrink until we started with, was it Arena or something? I remember the...
And this is where we were fighting a long time with very generic sort of sci-fi looking buildings and stuff like that. And this was, I think Olsen, TJ, Phil pushed really hard on the man-made stuff and really started to explore, okay, what if it had more of this is the frontier, what if it had more of a Wild West feel to it, but things were made out of recycled ship parts, and so there'd be this tech, but high tech, but low tech, mud roads, kind of like, because they're not going to pave stuff, they're not going to, so that it looks like the frontier, but it's sci-fi. And this is where we really started to figure out, the whole team started to understand what what the architectural style was for the human side of things. So we were figuring out on the art side what do wildlife look like, what does the trees and plants and stuff look like, but what does the man-made stuff look like?
We're still 2 years from release at this point, right?
Ultimately, yes.
We did not know that at the time.
Yeah, and the milestones, unfortunately, we won't go all the way to release. We've only got a handful more.
Because they were just something we were doing as kind of a courtesy.
Right.
And once the crunch came.
Yeah, and so I think you'll see, I don't remember, I think we have 26 milestone videos or something, so we're closing in on the last stuff. But it's funny, you can see even the titles and everything get more professional looking, more polished looking, right, as the team gets better and better. This is where we were pitching to Ruben that what we wanted to do was take all the individual gear stuff, take that stuff out of 4 characters and put it into 20 unique characters. This was our pitch, feeling like we could take, okay, you've got that grenade launcher with fire grenades and with HE grenades, let's just make those 2 different guns.
Yeah.
And we can put them on 2 different characters.
And we have like a fire-themed character, and then they would have the fire gun.
Exactly. So this is a little bit of slides of what we took to THQ and we pitched to them. It was going to take some more time. It was going to take some more budget, but ultimately we felt like this was the best thing to do for the game.
Plus, we thought we could sell good characters. We thought that we could make good characters that people would like and identify with, and that was more fun and engaging for everybody, including us and the players, than just new weapons.
And here's introducing. This was a radical idea of having a pet. I mean, not historically, like there's pets in WoW and stuff, but for us on Evolve, to have an AI pet was a risky idea. But one of the concepts, I think, one of the early concepts had a pet trap John. We really fell in love with that, and so that became Maggie's thing.
Stand by, I'm placing a beacon.
That was something we want. I remember finishing moves being something we wanted to try if you were like the last hunter left alive.
Right.
Oh, look at this stuff. These are Scott Flanders' original silhouettes.
So we got the okay from THQ to move ahead with a larger group of hunters instead of just the 4 of unique hunters. So these are, Scott started out just with these silhouette drawings, and turns out that was a super cool and effective way to get a lot of ideas out there in front of the team. Anybody who's bought the Art of Evolve book has seen this. Anybody who's looked on the Development of Evolve thread on our forums has seen this stuff. But for the team, it got the team really inspired, and now suddenly you can see how big of a thing this was for us to go to a bunch of characters. Just meant that we could have so much variety, and each character could have so much character that we didn't have to have these 4 iconic. Previously, with the marketing teams and everybody was so worried about these 4. If you got 4, they got to be perfect.
Yeah, they have to be aspirational. Well, now that they're aspirational, they're not relatable. Well, now that they're relatable, it's like, oh my god, it was such a headache.
So, this just gave us it was such a breath of fresh air. It's like, okay, well, if Abe's not going to be the only trapper, then it's okay if you think he's too cowboy. That's fine, because we'll have another trapper who's different, and another trapper who's different, and another trapper who's different than that.
I think that was one of the great successes of this game, was our character design.
I thought this would be fun. We've always posted telemetry. We've always talked about that kind of stuff.
This was the kind of thing that when the publisher came down to look at the game and we showed them this, they were like, holy crap, because they had not seen this in other games before.
Yeah. So internally, when we'd play test, we'd have many games going on at the same time, and you'd hear stories about, oh, this happened in my game, I don't understand this, or I'm frustrated with that, or my game sucked, my game was awesome. We get feedback. One game was awesome, one game was shitty on the same build. So what happened in those games? And so this is when our telemetry got online with replays, where we were recording all the movement of both teams, what they did, what they shot. This was kind of the birth of what would become super important for us, balancing the game after release. And so you can see here the 4 hunters, what class they are, what their health is, the monster, what stage he is, their movement through the map. And this told a really cool story. This particular, we got this online, and this was just one particular game session. I think Burrow was still in. I think this was a Scorpid. And I think he has this fight. He may off one or two. He kind of escapes. But then I think he burrows.
Yeah, the heroes are following him. And when he gets far enough away, he burrows.
And then they go by him. But you'll see that one of the trapper plants a sound spike. When they lose him, oh, it's a teleporter.
Oh, okay.
So she must have just hid. So they lose her, but the trapper places a sound spike right next to her. Happens to, right next to her. So now they're all moving away thinking, we lost her. Where did she go? They're looking for her. But the second she moves, it triggers that sound spike, and now they come back.
Yeah, you can see all, this is amazing. Watching this stuff for the first time in development was...
From a top-down view, to see this stuff play out and to understand what happened in that game was amazing. And now we had this insight into every game. This game's playing back at like 2x or 4x speed or something like that.
It also removed a lot of ambiguity. People would not agree on what happened in a game.
Right, and then we could go
look at the...
You could go back and watch it.
Now we know. Yeah.
Oh,
these were cool.
Yeah. So staging up, initially we had the idea that every monster would have their own cocoon.
Yeah, their own unique stage up.
And so these were, now we never animated these, they never made it into the game. These were just models that were models that got modeled, placed into the world that we showed off for this milestone footage. But it was cool to think about, if they were to go into cocoon, what would that look like?
Yep.
And each one had their own look. The idea was you would not know what monster you were facing, and if you came across a cocoon in the world, you would be able to tell, oh, that was a grounder.
Look at that thing. Now, this was back when being in your cocoon made you more vulnerable, right? Like if they found you, you took
significantly. It was brutal, yeah.
Because it was like, we meant to reward the hunters for finding the cocoon.
Yeah. Again, the game back then was so much slower paced.
Yes. I remember this cocoon looks
that.
amazing. Watch this. Watch when the teleporter is just this hovering, like chrysalis.
Yeah, there's floating bits there, and the idea that those would be like orbiting around.
Yeah.
They would be animated.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, this art is. But again, as beautiful as that looks, that could be Earth, right? That could be an island on Earth. There wasn't really anything about it that screamed alien planet.
So this may be Scorpid 3.0.
Yeah, this was the beginning of. This is based on Ruben's feedback.
Yeah,
having an iconic humanoid monster.
He wanted He wanted a poster child for Evolve, and it made a lot of sense to us.
Yeah.
And Scorpid, if you looked at that, you guys remember, it looked really cool as a whole, but if you looked at a kind of a close-up of his head, you couldn't see what was shoulders, what was head, what was face, what was mouth. It was kind of a mess of details. So
and he had a carapace instead of skin, so he couldn't frown.
And so we really wanted something that was more kind of humanoid, something that you could recognize very quickly. Now that version we think went too far to
looked like a dude.
Too simple. So we wound up with another version. This was the redo of Teleporter now becoming Wraith.
And this is very close to what we shipped with. Leviathan.
This never got any farther than this. The idea was kind of like the Titan, the same kind of class of things where it would be under the ice, and if the hunters got too close, it would come up out of the ice, and it would swoop down and grab one and swallow him and go back under the ice. And Titan proved such a failure gameplay-wise that the Leviathan was abandoned.
Yeah, that whole thing of just losing the game. You know, for just sort of somewhat randomly and not to your enemy, just to the wildlife was not fun. And here now we're starting to get the final names.
Yeah. So this was also MS-24 was when you'll see. I think it's this milestone. Third-person animations. Yeah. Third-person camera goes in for the first time. We're not sure at this point whether that's going to stick or not, but it was an experiment to see if, does this make me more self-aware? Do I know when I'm harpooned? Do I know when the hunters are behind me better? So that was kind of the very first month that shows up. Dune Beetle used to be really, I mean, they're a pain in the butt now, but they used to be super brutal. They used to pin you down.
Look at that. Oh my God.
Super cinematic, but not great when you're trying to fight a monster.
No, you were running and all of a sudden you just get interrupted with this whole process. Yeah.
This was the Reaver reskin for the ice maps, Ice Lurker. And again, we punted on these because they did have slightly different wildlife behaviors, slightly different animations, and we just didn't have the time to polish that stuff and QA all that stuff.
Yeah, we had a whole bunch of really interesting lava creatures, I remember. Like the lava strider. Do we have any of that in here? Does that make it out of concept?
It does, yeah.
Okay. You are slowed.
This was this kind of became, a Steamodon does the same thing. But these were little prey creatures, and the idea is if you got too close, they would ink, and it slowed you. But the monster would be able to see ink from far away, or the hunters would see ink and then know that the monster or the other team was there.
Yeah, I mean, there was a time when there was wildlife that was anti-monster wildlife, and there was wildlife that was anti-hunter wildlife. And then over time, the wildlife became mostly just an obstacle for the hunters.
So this is now Scorpid 3.0, which officially becomes Goliath.
Yeah.
Scorpid was kind of a weird name, and it fit when he had a carapace, but now he doesn't. So what do we call him? And so he became Goliath, and now this, he would still get updated before he got released, but yeah, this is really close to what would ship.
Yep. Yeah, and you can see that like this is a much more relatable creature. It's got a face, it's got eyes.
You know what? I have to pee so bad. I might have to go and come back.
You gotta do what you gotta do. Right? You gotta do it when you gotta go. You got to go. How much time do we got, Shane Reno? 7 minutes?
All right.
Okay. Are you gonna take off? That's fine. I can hold down the fort. I don't know what there is about the fort that requires it to be held.
Okay, hold on.
Is the fort gonna fly away? Is the fort connected to
I'll be right back.
Okay, Chris is going to go drain the main vein, and we are. I will vamp for a little while. We're getting pretty close to the end of the milestone videos because, again, this was something that we did purely just to show off kind of to the publisher, but that was at an earlier stage of development where we were free to kind of still experiment and stuff. And then once the crunch came, we had to kind of stop doing these. We didn't have time. This was all stuff that Ashton put together on his own. Like he assembled these, and it took him hours. So you see that note, body rotates according to the motion. We had a creature that we had spec'd out that people talked about called the velvet worm, and it was supposed to be this worm snake-like thing.
People
and
in chat were super stoked about it.
Really?
They were like, we wanted it to happen.
Yeah, people don't understand that like one of the things we have to do as video game developers is not just make it and make it work, it has to look good. And so if you have a snake creature and the player can turn around, right? The player controlling the monster wants to be able to do this and then attack the person behind it. But that's not how a snake moves. A snake goes, hang on a minute, let me reorient, and there was no way to do that and make that animation work. So it was something that we could imagine, and if it was not player controlled, we could have made it cool. But a player controlled snake worm thing was not viable. And this is the lava map. The lava maps were cool, but again, this comes down to the difference between the game being a simulation of fighting on an alien world and it being a game that you fight another player against. There was a lot of lava on these maps, and if you fell into the lava, you died. Yeah. And that was not fun. And then there was a brief.
Why am I talking to this?
He's talking to the XLR.
The mic
talking into the
the
XLR.
Into
the XLR thing.
I thought you'd need help, but you're fine. So.
I mean, you know.
Hi guys, I love you.
Here, I'll talk into the thing. I don't want Chloe to feel bad. And so yeah, the lava thing was terrible, and there was a brief period where you would fall into lava and not die, just sort of sink and burn, and people were like, I don't think that's how that would work. So yeah, there was a lot of experimentation, and again, we were free to imagine stuff that sounded cool and then build it. And once you start, your ideas have to intersect with gameplay, and sometimes your ideas lose. And that's something we were free to do. I actually don't know what this device is. Is this some kind of like sound? Is it the directional audio thing?
Yeah, but
parabolic mic?
Parabolic amplifier?
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds like proper bullshit that I would have come up with.
Boop. Okay, so hopefully that works. Back on. But yeah, you could hear across the map.
Now that you're here, we have to shut up.
Oh. Nope, that's it.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty close to here we go, breakable trees. Remember when you could hide inside a banyan tree and the monster couldn't do anything? Not after this.
So we had other breakable trees, but not this version of them. And then this is when we started to get pretty aggressive in the code, trying to make trees would break before, but they would stop the monster 100%, and then you'd have to start again. We would struggle, like walking through them would be fine when we shipped, but I know that like it took us a while, like Leap Smash. Goliath would run into those and stop midair for the longest time. So dealing with physics is a gnarly physics and player interaction in particular in games is really.
And the fact that this isn't just an empty arena, right? The environment, everything, like the number of times you do the rock throw and we get hung up on something and you're like, I don't understand why it didn't do. Oh, this thing is amazing. This creature's awesome.
The idea with the Lava Strider was that it had this soft bit on top, and that's the only way you could kill it.
Yeah. So it's heavily armored from below, right? But then from up here, it's just this pink fleshy mass.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that thing looked amazing. Like notice how different the throw animation is. Like throwing it from the side. We needed to be able to pick it up and aim it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was carnivorous plants, which we loved and we stuck with.
This is the one that shipped. Yeah. I think it still got revised, but this is basically the one that shipped, and then you'll see some other ones that don't.
Yeah, it was fun.
This one worked really well because you could see it. If you stepped in it, it's your own fault. So that one played really well, and teammates could save you. This one visually was really cool. Terrible experience as a hunter, and I think you'll see a shot here.
Yeah, this is something that would stick to cave walls and ceilings, and it would just grab you. Yeah.
Or it would just stick you.
Yeah.
Which wasn't. There wasn't any fun in that.
No.
And then this one effectively did the same thing as the other plant. It would grab you and pull you in, and then your teammate had to save you. But again, more animations. This one was more limited where it could be placed because of the way it was built into the rock.
Natural.
So we just wound up using the first plant. We just wound up using that universally. Elite Sloth. So this is one of the. We got early feedback, of course, that players said, "Oh well, I know the game isn't about the wildlife, but I wish there was a reason I had to kill wildlife."
Yeah, I want to be rewarded for beating these creatures.
So here, this was a sloth. We had given it a different skin. This led to the albino skins.
Yeah.
We'd given it a different skin, and in this version, we had really upped its health and damage, and we made it like, the idea was it was a mini boss fight.
Yep.
And if you killed it, then you would get this buff that would then be useful against the monster. So, I mean, that's effectively what Elite Wildlife became in the shipping game. So that's an idea that worked. The only thing is that players didn't like that they were tougher.
Yeah.
They didn't like that you'd have to spend. They get used to what.
It was more of an investment.
And I think that's it. That's the last milestone that we ever. I think for 27 we recorded some stuff and we never assembled a video, and that was it. We never did that again. But it stands as a really cool record of everything that we did in the past. It's fun to go back and watch those. It's fun for the team to see those, especially people who join later. It's fun for people who lived that stuff to reminisce about that.
Apparently we're giving away a pistol. They've told us who the winner is, but I don't think we should. I think I'm just going to keep it because it's super cool. It's a model of Val's pistol, right?
Is it Val's or Kyra's?
I thought it might be Kyra's. It's one of the Medic's pistols. And why don't you let them know?
Oh, I guess they're the same actually.
Yeah, because yeah.
So winner of this, we're going to ship to you, is Hillbilly Death Lord.
Which is awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, so
active on the forums.
We wanted to do something so special for the community. This is something that only members of the dev team have, and only the members of the dev team who committed to growing a beard, growing their hair long.
This was the reward for No Shave Till Ship, where we just stopped cutting our hair. And we all looked like Old Testament prophets.
So a lot of people put up with itchy faces and the girls not being able to get their hair cut and stuff in order to earn one of these. So it just felt like a community just means so much to us and has meant so much to us that we wanted to give back something like ultra special that you couldn't ever get in stores or anything anywhere else. So there you go. Thanks everybody for trying. Anybody who did get it, everybody, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning
How
in.
many
Thanks
of
for
these
talking
are
to us. I don't know.
It's on the order of like 50 in the entire world.
Yeah, it's definitely less than 100.
What's this? Oh, this is for the picture. This is from the picture we took yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, we really like, I think this. Some of this comes from you guys' time at Valve, but when I first started here, Chris and Phil were very open about development. Like, Chris and Phil, the owners of the company, work in and among. They don't have offices. They work in and amongst with the rest of us. And so, any issue that came up during game development, anyone on the team was able to participate in that discussion and weigh in. And so, our relationship with you guys is just an extension of Chris and Phil's philosophy of like, why treat this stuff like secrets? Let's just share. We're making the game for you folks, and the way you use it tells us what we should be doing. And so, I mean, the community's been one of the huge rewards of working on this game.
Yeah, being able to get on the forums. That's definitely, we put it in the letter. It's one of the things that, that it meant a lot to us to be able to release the game and then see players' reactions to it and see people posting on the community.
Oh, yeah.
That's when everything, all this stuff that we were doing in those milestone videos, that's when it all matters.
Yeah.
That's when it finally seems real. So I know for me, there were days on like patch releases and stuff like that where I would spend the whole day on the forums just reading what everybody was saying and replying here or there. But it's such a huge part of, that's definitely looking back, and we didn't really get that with Counter-Strike, and we didn't get that at all with Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
And so this was the first time for us where we've been so close to the community, and the community's had such a strong voice.
I mean, you and I
in the
both come
game.
from a tradition where when you make a game, you release it, and it's on a disc, and then that's it. There was no internet, there was no patching or support or any of that stuff. And so the Evolve was kind of the first time we got to make a game that lived and breathed online with a community. And that was the reason we did it.
Yep. We should answer
some of these questions.
Some of these questions before we go.
How much time do we have? Does anybody care? We're just going to keep talking. Like, it's our stream. We can do what we want.
Yeah.
We could be here all day.
Yeah. Let's do this one. Spare Tire asked, was Kala meant to eventually turn into a monster or just die from complications of her experiment? And that is definitely something that this guy, it's good to have him on to be talking about.
Very early on, we thought Kala would turn into a monster.
Yeah.
Right? We wanted the idea of, in fact, we know what she would have been called. She would have been Kali, which is one of the Indian gods associated with death and destruction. And we had a whole chunk of content planned. I don't know if it would have been a sequel or a campaign that we released. We didn't really know. But it would have been kind of Apocalypse Now-like, where she was Kurtz and had gone in an attempt to, like, she knows what's happening to her, and she knows that she's turning into a monster, and she's desperately trying to solve this problem, and she thinks she has a solution. And she's doing all this research, and she separates herself from the rest of the team to save them from her. And then they have to go, then she turns into a monster, and they gotta go get her. And I think we planned on the heroes eventually saving her. Like the destruction of the Patterson Drive at the end of the game would kind of purge the monster stuff from her. I thought. We don't know. Who knows? That was so speculative. But yeah, there was definitely a plan that Kala would be a monster, and we even thought that it would be fun to have Kala versus Kali, like just in multiplayer.
In multiplayer.
Yeah, just the fact that you could have, and there would be dialogue and stuff like that. That would have been cool. That would have been great.
That was definitely. I mean, you could see where we were going, right? With not so much with the adaptations because we were so limited, we can't record new dialogue and that sort of thing. But with the full characters, you could see where we were going with it, and that's something that we were really excited to see. I really, really wanted to see Kala.
Yeah, turn into a monster.
Turn into a monster, yeah. And go that far. Let's see. Argus of Night asked if you guys were really good at asymmetrical gameplay. Do you think it's possible to pull off another one like this? Definitely. We love asymmetrical multiplayer, and there's varying levels of it, right? So if you look at Counter-Strike, bomb defusal scenario, the CTs need to plant a bomb, the Ts need to try to disarm the bomb. They have different weapons. So they have different goals, different objectives, and different weapons. And so in a way, like Counter-Strike is even asymmetrical. Left 4 Dead, certainly playing the infected, you get to respawn. Playing the survivors, you don't. So Left 4 Dead's asymmetrical. And Evolve is asymmetrical as well. It's just that Evolve, a lot of times I think people put the asymmetrical label on like 4 versus 1, the fact that it's not even teams.
No. Asymmetrical to us just means not everyone is doing the same thing.
Right, and I think that that's the most interesting part of asymmetrical is just that if I go to the other team, I'm going to have a different experience, and it's not important. And I think, honestly, I think at the end of the day, the sort of negatives from 4 versus 1, from especially on the monster side, like being the monster, even though it's cool to be the monster and you don't have to rely on teammates, that natural human reaction to there are 4 other humans that are playing against me and ganged up on me. A lot of people can't handle that stress. It works really well for some players, but for the majority of the audience out there, it doesn't work for them.
Right. They didn't feel like these huge unstoppable monsters. They felt outnumbered.
Yeah, and I think that so some of the stuff that we had started playing around with was other modes where there's 2 monsters.
Yeah.
2 monsters. We did 2 versus 8, for example.
That was amazing.
And having
no spoilers.
Having another monster beside me, there was fun stuff like he would kill an elite and eat one of the meats, but leave another one, so I could also get the meat from it, the elite bonus from it. Just having another one on my team where I'm not 100% by myself, I could choose.
You have someone to work with, you have someone to coordinate with. It's not all on your shoulders.
Right. I felt like that brought a lot to the game. So
also being one of the 8 hunters was amazing because you felt like every hunter has different means of getting, like when Markov's using his jetpack, it looks different than anyone else using their jetpack. When Parnell hits his super soldier thing and streaks through the map, you felt like you were on the Avengers. It was pretty cool.
So I think, when we're designing games, we like to design stuff, break new ground, do stuff that is innovative, do stuff that nobody else has done before, do stuff that's ultimately is, in a lot of people's eyes, is risky. But a lot of that's just not treading the same, if it's been done before, then that's fine, somebody already did it. Like, let's go do something. There's so much that hasn't been done yet. That's what Turtle Rock is interested in. That's what Turtle Rock really enjoys doing the most. So would we do 4 versus 1 again? Probably not. And not to say that it doesn't work, because I love Evolve and I think it does work. But it's just that, okay, now we've done that.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah.
Now what's next, right?
Yeah.
What are
and
we?
we like teamwork, right? We like being on a team.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of when we think about asymmetrical gameplay, Chris and I can be playing on the same team, but I have a different job than he does, right? And then that means we get cooperation, but we each get to feel special. And so I think that's a big part of our design philosophy.
So, you know, I think that a lot of what we wanted to do to get on the stream, we wanted to celebrate Evolve together. We wanted to show you guys never before seen footage. We wanted to thank you guys for everything that you've done, for being there, for criticizing the game, for praising the game, for sharing your experiences, for helping us to build it. And so we wanted to really celebrate that together, but also let you guys know that Turtle Rock's still here. We still have those things that I mentioned. We still want to make innovative games. We still plan to be in the multiplayer space. We still love teamwork. So,
I mean, the stuff that I'm working on right now, like today, is some of the most exciting stuff I've ever worked on. So I think the spaces that we're branching out into are really exciting.
So there's a lot to look forward to, a lot to be excited about, and you know, as we said in the letter, we really hope that we know that our community was built on Evolve, because we didn't have it with Left 4 Dead, we didn't have it with Counter-Strike. So we know our community was built on Evolve, and we're really hoping that a large percentage of you guys will stick with Turtle Rock Studios. You will see what we do next, and we'll try to do you proud. So I guess with that,
I think we're done.
We're probably done.
Yeah. I think being a part of this community was amazing for me. Going on the forums and posting stuff and seeing just how people interacted with, like, we built a whole universe from scratch, and then seeing people take it and make it their own, and the stuff that they responded to was huge. I mean, we took a lot of risks with some of our characters. Like Emmett was super crazy, and it turned out to be one of our most popular characters. So, you know, we were free to kind of come up with some crazy stuff and put it in front of you folks. And it was just amazing watching people take it and interact with it and make it their own. So that's all we can hope for, I think.
Yeah. So tune in for what Turtle Rock does next. I think it's safe to say that we'll do something that we're passionate about, that we're excited about. If we couldn't work on something that we could fall in love with, I don't think we would do it. So you know it's going to be good. So tune in, follow us, hang out on our forums, and we'll see you next time.
It meant a lot for us to stand on our own 2 feet and prove that we were the real deal, that Turtle Rock Studios was a real AAA game developer.
We stayed true to what the game always was.
It was amazing to work on something that no one's ever tried before.
It was clear we had to give it another shot no matter what.
We were so excited that people got this game the way that we did.
Evolve will always be super close to my heart, and it'll always be a part of all of us.
We're not perfect. We tried our best. That's all we can really hope to do.
It's because of you that we were able to do this. If we didn't have fans, then we wouldn't be able to do what we love. We'd be able to make these games, so they're, you know, the #1 most important thing.
That one person that says thank you and you're doing an awesome job, I want to keep going and I want to keep kicking ass for them.
I look forward to showing you guys what we have in store for the future.
#1 thing is to remember that there's more stuff coming. We want our fans and our community to be along for the ride.
We're not done. We've got some great stuff in the oven cooking. That sucks, because I just made a fart noise with my hand.